या देवी सर्वभूतेषु शक्तिरूपेण संस्थिता नमस्तस्यै 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 नमो नमः Namaste. Let's first of all fold our hands together and recite the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, thou art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those that trespass against us. Lead us not unto temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever and ever. Amen. A very good morning to all of you. Our Honorable Principal Dr. Nagar sir, respected Head of the Department Dr. Ketki Madam, respected Dr. Nayan sir, our IT admin Shrimit Bhai Lakhani, and dear students. Today, on this very pleasing occasion of our William Shakespeare Study Circle, I, Aditi Dave, heartily welcome you. In the previous study circle, we have seen the summary of the 12 chapters of our Pujya Bapuji's autobiography, Dream Half Expressed. Today, we will see the summary of 13th to 28 chapters. Now, I would like to invite our respected Professor Dr. Nayan Tak sir for welcoming everybody. Please, sir.
Namaskar, respected Principal Dr. Nagar sir, equally respected Dr. Ketki ma'am, Head of the Department, dear Aditi ma'am, and dear students. Today, we are going to have a wonderful session on the life. I think, ma'am, we must call it a voyage of life of our Pujya Kulpitasri Nanji Set. Sometimes, friends, it seems that it is something miracle. When we read autobiography, we can't believe that such thing might have happened. But this is the fact. Nanji Bhai, whom we call Pujya Bapuji, who is a Gujarati entrepreneur who landed in Africa, in East Africa, as a young boy and retired in his old age as the founder of the major multinational business house, the Mehta Group of Companies. This is his wonderful achievement. And I think we must call him a man of commerce. And he considered commerce as a romance. If you look in literature, then all these characteristics of romance, that is adventure, love, myth, supernatural, all these things. If we read, when you read his autobiography, you would come across. Nanjiset has gone through all these experiences and he proved himself as a man of commerce and not in India, but in Africa, in alien world. And this is, I think, one of the best achievements in the life because see, in alien land, nobody knows us. And when we establish ourselves as the superpower, this is unbelievable. Moreover, if we say that Pujya Bapuji has been a man of letter, a man of literature, his autobiography is the best example of his creativity. And apart from it, he is an avid traveler, all alone on the sea. When Nanji Set was traveling, it's called voyage. Then I remember that old man in the sea, the Santiago, the hero of Hemingway. He was also all alone, like our Nanji Set. Nanji Set faced so many difficulties. Even he has to face some robbers on the pirates on his journey. But he experienced everything with courage and he succeeded in his journey. One more thing, he is uh, true nationalist. For the sake of India, he devoted and dedicated all things to Mahatma Gandhi. When Bapu told him with smiling face, he was ready to share whatever he has. This is, I think, excellent thing. It is a nobility in his character. Apart from this, he is a devout Hindu. And that Hinduism can be seen through our establishment of our Arya Kanya Gurukul, which is based on Arya Samaj, the culture of Arya culture, Arya Samaj, our Rigved, our Ved. And that is the Bapuji wish that our daughters, they should get the knowledge of our Vedas, our Puranas, because ultimately he realized at that time that the real life would be there in our Vedas. And I think nowadays these things have become true, because when we are surrounded by pandemics, then ultimately we go for what we call spirituality. Because see, ultimately spirituality can give us the journey, the path of life. And our Bapuji has proved it in the very early 19th, I think, madam, if I'm not wrong. And then Puja Bapuji is a committed philanthropist. When Gujarat government wanted, it was in urgency. Gujarat government had no money, and Gujarat government told Bapuji. So Bapuji gave a lots of money to Gujarat government to compensate some debts, and that's why he has been called Rajratna. It has been given to Nanji said Rajratna. He is, Bhamasa of this Kalyug. He has established so many big inns, hospitals in many places of India. Even in Haridwar also you would find one of the best inns. So Nanji said is really today, though Bapuji is not there, but what we call the waves, Bapujism is still prevailing in our Tapavan. And that's why we feel vibrated when we enter in our Tapavan. Let us have our Shabdanjali to Puja Bapuji. With my Shabdanjali, I welcome all my students and my teachers and our principal in this wonderful brainstorming, or rather we call Shabdanjali session of Puja Bapuji. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir. You joined the autograph biography of Bapuji with literature very wonderfully. Thank you. Now let's start our today's activity. So our first participant is Miss Radhika Khandar from semester 3, who will give us the summary of chapter 13.
Very good noon, Honorable Principal Dr. Nagar sir, our Head of the Department Dr. Ketki Madam, Dr. Rayan sir, and Aditi Madam. Dear and dear friends, I am Radhika Khandar from BSM3. Today I am telling you about chapter number 13, With Our Sweat and Blood. The Kenya-Uganda Railway was specially built, but it did not extend to its forest limit. India engineers, artists, and laborers played an important role in completing one of the most difficult projects. In those difficult projects in those regions of East Africa, the project was first put forward to provide a link between Mombasa and the Great Lakes as an essential step towards killing the slave trade as it fuels. It was such a difficult and impossible project. Indian laborers had to stay in camps at night and work by day during installation and fact unforeseen dangerous and unimaginable hardship. The Kenya-Uganda Railway was ultimately carried to its farthest limit with huge corporation and enterprise, and create a vital line of communication which revived the spirit of the Darmans continues, it was again Indian merchants who made Uganda habitual at the cost of the life on their own kith and kin. Nanjipai started from Mombasa for Uganda, and his train passed the Makupa Bright which linked Mombasa with the train land of Africa. The train moved at full speed and traveled its zigzag. The first halt was at Temzembe, which is 192 feet high above the main sea level. The next station that followed was Mezar, the highest being 1534 feet. Later on the train reached Monga, which rose to a highly of 172 feet. It was night by then, and the carriage where, like Bapuji, spread his carpet and stretched himself to sleep. The following morning, when Bapuji woke up, he found that he was at Himal 100, 370 feet height. It was Africa, then the land of Danessa forest and happy safari. It was 10:30 when Nanjibai reached Nairobi, which is 1562 feet high above sea level and equals the highest of the Guru Shikhar of Meet Abu in Gujarat. As train left Nairobi, it passed through Great Highest and Great Depression and Kenya Ridge and Pastial Highlands. It was Nanjibai's first experience of traveling in a third-class compartment. He traveled up to Port Kisumu train Nakara on Chun, where the railway line train made. He had to reach Zinzavia Entebbe by steamship through Lake Victoria. Again he began to climb down till it reached to lower regions and Zinza and Kanikla. When Ranjibai sat on his foot on the soil of Zinza. He had high number stories above. The flame of sea is the Alidira Vistram. For Bapuji, he was like a brilliant star, but suddenly depressed in the dark, leaving behind a dazzling train. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Radhika. Now let's have the summary of chapter 14 from Miss Pooja Odedra, semester 3.
Very good afternoon. Shri Dr. Anupam Nagar sir, head of the department, Dr. Gayatri ma'am, Ms. Aditi ma'am, with the ruling lions through the reef to go experience which was not lost upon him. Afterwards, Nanjibai stayed at Headman's house, and he sleeping. His goods and luggage was stolen by thieves. He complained about this to the Mami, a African chief, or a thus he hammock for Nanjibai from the bark of a tree and asked them to carry him back to Kaunli. When Nanjibai met his master, afterwards the thieves were caught. Nanjibai got all his goods back and got one of the most unusual experience of his life. Nanjibai recalled another experience of his life, that there was a Arab who owed 100 rupees from his master and lived at Iganga. We learned that he was about to leave Africa for his native place. My master asked me to connect him before he left and recover debt. Nanjibai reached Jinja with 6 labours. He had still to travel 30 miles more from Jinja to reach Iganga. One man carried a lantern in front of the party. All the while crickets and insects humid their monotonous tone in the lonely forest and beats of a pre-road or screamed at them. At many moment, any moment, a lioness or a lion would peep out of dairy bushes and stare them. The man with lantern got panic and ran away into the jungle, throwing away the burning lantern on the ground. The lantern soon caught fire. The lions were frightened at the burning lantern and filled the whole jungle with their resounding roars, and that echoed across the turbulent sky. Nanjibai was speechless and prayed that he might be saved from his deadly situation. Unmoved, the lions went back into the thick bushes, and after this adventure they reached Iganga. After great Sri Vitthal Das Haridas lived at Iganga. Nanjibai met him. Iganga of today is a different place, but in those days there were only 8 shops. After that, Bapuji reached Kaunli. He narrated his adventure experience with his master, and his master congratulated him. After that, Nanjibai left the job and served his master from 1905 to 1906. Afterwards, a day on which Bapuji established his own shop at Kaunli was a red letter day of his life. The store had to be raised from its very foundation. There were no carpenters available, and one had to do the job oneself with minimum of materials and implements one could procure. From starting this humble store to establishing very first factories, Bapuji's capital has always been his own credit, and Bapuji recalled the thoughts which he had left his native country. So Bapuji kept himself absorbed in his work and forget about everything else. Nothing could be achieved without hard labor, self-resistance, and strength of character. This was the advice given by Bapuji to everyone, should not be forgotten by anyone who succeed in life. Thank you for listening carefully. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much, Miss Pooja. Now let's have Miss Nidhi Megnathi from semester 3 who will tell us about the summary of chapter 15.
Namaste, respected our principal Dr. Anupam Nagar sir, head of department Ketki ma'am and Nayan sir. I am a Begnati Nidhi. Today I am telling about you chapter 15 summary. After running the shop at Kamuli for a year, I drew up the balance sheet of account and found that trade had not only increased but a good profit had accrued too. This added to my zest for new enterprise. My uncle had decided to bring Africa for good and stay in India permanently. It was difficult for me to cope with the batches of trade going to the jungle to buy goods and sending them back to Jim for sale. I engaged Jivan Samji, a man of my community whom I had previously met at Mombasa. As the government of Uganda progressively annexed more and more territory, I returned to Kamuli with 75 laborers and two headmen who helped me carry the goods to Kamuli. Jinja and Kamuli are within the district of Busoga, which extend from Lake Victoria to Lake Kyo. 50 per years have passed since and things have completely changed now. That simplicity of life and trendy possession have left our life as mixed instantly complex and our needs have multiplied. They had neither seen an Indian nor a European before, and so they continue to get at me with wonder and admiration. Uganda is inhabited by 6 different tribes: the Baganda, Basuga, Bagiza, Teso, Boniera, and Lego each have a dialect of its own and the number 7 billion in all. The whole of Uganda is fertile and gets rain throughout the year. The average rainfall is 40 to 50 inches per year. I traveled to the remotest jungles of the provinces of Teso and Logo and popped up at the 6th place and gave them presents. They lived in a state of nature and were as innocent as birds and animals. Mahatma Gandhi's youth is complete as in a non-violence and truth, which were the seat anchor of India's rich movement. This element of love gave them human outlook. The man whom I had sent to buy fresh stock to Jim did not return. After 4 months of touring, I left Kalaki and come back to Kamuli. Thus ended the year 1970. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Nidhi. Now let's have the summary of chapter 16 from Miss Reena Kuti, semester 3.
Hello, good afternoon, respected principal, our Nagar sir and head of department Ketki madam, Dr. Nayan sir and Dr. Aditi madam and dear students. Today I give you a summary of chapter 16, experiments in cotton growing. Nanjibhai wondered why he had not experiment in growing cotton as the government did. Immediately, he wrote home for 10 pounds of cotton weight and also asked for vegetable seeds. As food, vegetables were not grown in East Africa in Dhanantias. Nanjibhai also gave some of them to his neighbors and asked them to show them in the right season. Luckily, we had a good cotton crop and arranged with the native African people to glean by hand. Nanjibhai's eyes shined with the joy of learning something new from him. Then he told us that the government was experimenting in showing Egyptian cotton at Kampala. All the time we were on with his experiment in planting Indian cotton that was in Uganda until the year more. Actually, cotton growing was quite successful and the company prospered. At present, Uganda products cotton courier and cotton, one of the best valuable crops of rice and fertile land. Also started flooding cotton and sent it to Jinja and Kampala for show. Kampala was a very small town then, so it was the capital of Uganda Kingdom. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Reena. Now let's have Miss Kajal Uridra from semester 5 who will tell us about the summary of chapter 17. Miss Kajal Uridra.
Namaste. Honorable Principal Dr. Nagar Sir, Head of the Department Dr. Ketki Ma'am, respected Dr. Nayan Sir and Aditi Ma'am. Today I am going to present summary of chapter 17 of Dream Half Express and autobiography of Sri Nanjibai Kalidas Mehta. Chapter 17, Thoughts about a Textile Mill. Sri Somabhai Patel was station master at Jinja at that time. He was 3 years senior to Nanjibai. Somabhai was a very lovable and gentleman. Nanjibai had developed a close relationship with him and they did not feel happy until they saw each other every day. In year 1910, Nanjibai borrowed a steamer with Somabhai, left Mombasa and reached Bombay in due course. They put up at Hirabad. It was just then that his business connection with well-known merchant Sheth Bhagwan Das Mauji of Bombay began. They left Bombay and travelled to Ahmedabad and stayed there with Somabhai's brother, who was employed at a very high salary at Sheth Mansukbhai Bhagubhai's textile mill, then known as Telia Mill. He stayed at Ahmedabad for 3 days and went to Porbandar and then to Gorana, his native place. He had great pleasure in seeing all his relatives after staying for such a long time in Africa. After staying at Gorana for a few days, he started on a pilgrimage. He first went to Mount Abu. He revisited its beautiful spots he had been seen earlier. Then he wanted to have a complete view of the land of Sindh. He traveled by road to Suibgam and proceeded to Tharparkar. He crossed the desert on camelback and reached Hyderabad via Meethi. From Hyderabad, he went to Karachi, the capital of Sindh. He had visited it only 6 years ago, but this small passage of time had already changed its character. 6 years ago, he had thought of settling down there, but destiny willed something different. It led him to East Africa, where he established the road of his commercial wonders. From Sindh, he went to Lahore via Multan and visited Punjab, the land of 5 rivers. Then he reached Rawalpindi, where the Hindu-Muslim rivers had left a sense of separation. From Rawalpindi, he decided to go to Takshashila. After having a look at trade and commerce of the surrounding district, he again reached Bombay. From Bombay, he went on a pilgrimage to Nasik and had a darshan of Sri Trambakeshwar. He had a dip in the river Godavari near Panchvati, where Sri Ram, Lakshman, and Sita stayed during their exile. He again went to Bombay, got a steamer, and sailed for Mombasa. From there, he reached Jinja. It took a pretty long time to reach Africa in those days. Today, one can go there with the same ease and speed with which one goes from Porbandar to Bombay. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Kajal. Now let's have the summary of chapter 18 from Miss Krishna Uridra, semester 5.
Respected Dr. Nagar Sir, Head of Department Dr. Ketki Madam, Dr. Nayan Sir, and Aditi Madam. Today, I will present Chapter 18 of The Dream of Half Expressed by Nanjibai Kalidas Mehta. Chapter 18. The period that began with the year 1912 and ended with the year 1904 was a critical period in the fights for rights of Indian merchants who had settled in East Africa. About 1.5 million pounds of cotton were regularly purchased. Hundreds of African workers carried these bags on their heads, and labor legislation prevented them from carrying more than 2 mounts of load on their heads. Though labor was cheap, food was equally cheap, and therefore there was no conflict between the merchants and the laborers who willingly carried on their trade and did their duties according to the accepted standard of capital and labor. The year 1930 thus saw the beginning of the use of cents and modern currency was in use. Cotton plantation rapidly increased and the remotest parts of East Africa bristled with new activities of cotton growing and cotton planting. Several men from India migrated to this part of Uganda, earned their living, and thus contributed their might unknowingly to the great continent that was coming out from its age-old torpor. Englishmen who looked upon them with respect and encouraged them in their endeavors. A German firm, Hansing and Company, even pressed him Bapuji to trade at a German East African port, but Bapuji knew that the German rule was then very stringent and merchants were practically treated as a slave, so he gave up the idea. Business in Uganda marked a steady rise and he used to earn 10 to 20,000 rupees a year, which was considered quite a pretty good amount in those days. He called his wife to live with him. With coming of his wife, their meals are properly looked after, their worries for looking after the well-being of their family thousands of miles away from Africa ceased. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Krishna Odedra. Now, Ms. Shivani Vaja is coming with Chapter 19 summary. Ms. Shivani Vaja from Semester 3. Okay. Now let's have the summary of Chapter 20 from Ms. Bansi Asha, Semester 3.
Namaste. Namaste. Honorable Principal Dr. Nagar sir, Head of the Department Dr. Ketki ma'am, Nayan sir, Aditi ma'am, and dear student. Today I am going to tell you about Chapter 20, War in German East Africa by Nanji Kalidas Mehta. Bapuji got shipped from Bombay arrived in January and got 6 lakhs sold for 8 lakhs. He time but to go England was a tough problem. I was ranking and all means of communication were taken up for the transport of the army and necessary goods for it. Everything was on a wire basic and all meeting places were destroyed due to the only the Arya Samaj temple and the Hindu Union temple were left. Bapuji could meet and talk together, these being the religious reformers or of those belong to the Orthodox fold. Arya Samaj way of life become more confined. He had to the opportunity of meeting Maharani Shankar Sharma of Junagadh. While he have sitting on the veranda and exchanging our views on religious or social affairs, a police officer went to the religious place. He was the head of the criminal investigation department and arrested those he had presented at the Arya Samaj temple. Bapuji employed Orthodox or Rajputas and lived for the whole day on parchad maize and other similar narrative food which they had. His steamer reached by the shore and the Arya begins landing in the darkness. All of a suddenly, a machine gun started flying. His soldiers want to onboard the Sia quality again and skillful race towards a British fort and laid there a safe anchor. He incident that occurred in 1924. His sitting fresh in my memory were increased my trade and also give me an opportunity. His services to the poor, his sincerity and truthfulness and attachment to the education course strength first had me gratefulness and English. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Bansi Asha. Now, let's have the summary of chapter 21st from Miss Dara Chauhan, semester 5.
Namaste, respected Principal Dr. Nagar sir, Dr. Ketki ma'am, Dr. Nayan sir, Aditi ma'am, Meet sir, and all my friends. Here in chapter 21, Out of the Jaws of Death, Nanjibai Kalidas Mehta talks about how the First World War already raised the prices of Uganda cotton. No income tax was then levied and profits were naturally high. The government insisted that Nanjibai should buy cotton. The total production was about 40,000 bales. But there were no adequate transport facilities, and after ginning the required quantity of cotton, its seed had to be burnt. Nanjibai had sent his men and commissioned agents to buy the best of the lot then available. They were on a visit to both the marketing places. One was on the northern side of the lake Kyoga, and the other was to be held on the southern Awan. At every 4 miles on the shores of the lake, there were 3 or 4 stores owned by Indian merchants. Nanjibai asked the officer to arrange for a boat through our senior African chief, as he wanted to go to the other shore to watch the purchasing done by his agents. The chief accepted the proposal with great respect, and the district commissioner left the place for further inspection. He took his morning meal in about 10 o'clock and left their place to reach the shore on bicycle. But before he could reach the shore, he had to take his bicycle along an unmetalled road. It was only 4 feet wide, and grass had grown to a height of 10 feet on both sides of the road. He followed the unmistakable track and was at the chief's cottage by 11 o'clock in the morning. His Punjabi friends had warned him not to go by that route before he left Kamuli, for it was in fact infested with cannibals who relished human flesh. Meanwhile, the chief came to see him, and Nanjibai asked him at once whether his attendant had reached there in advance. He replied that the boat was ready, but it would take some time as it had gone just a few minutes before to other shore. As for the attendant, he said he had not reached there and that he had not even seen him. Nanjibai could realize that his answers were evasive and his suspicion was strengthened. He suddenly became aware of a treacherous situation. He carried a revolver with 50 cartridges in case of an emergency, a knife dangling from the waist, and spear in hand. Nanjibai firmly told the chief to get him a boat, otherwise the matter would be reported to the commissioner. The chief tried to remove his bicycle. Nanjibai got up at once, ran to the bicycle, and snatched it away from his treacherous hands, and then he fired a shot at the door of the hut. The chief was at first startled by the revolver shot, but soon composed himself and gave a signal. The shot pierced the grass padding of the door, and it soon caught fire. At the next shot, 2 tall, furious men came out of the hut with heavy spears and stood before the chief. Nanjibai fired a third shot, and both of them, along with their chief, threw themselves on the ground to avoid the shot. Nanjibai led the bicycle with one hand and fired with the other, and moved as fast as he could towards the shore of the lake. He reached the small temporary port which the government had built on Lake Kyoga. It had a very small population which consisted of Gone clerk, Mr. Tellis, 5 armed police constables, and 3 scores of African workers who loaded and unloaded the ships. They anxiously listened to what Nanjibai had said and told that he was lucky enough to escape unharmed, for those cannibals relished Indian flesh very much. In spite of the words passed to his men, 2 of his clerks, Keshav and Vittal, in their usual youthful enthusiasm, took the same route the day after Nanjibai left Kamuli. They did not heed the advice given to them. They encouraged the same chief who cheated them with sweet words, seated them in a boat, robbed them of their belongings, and with the help of boatmen killed them halfway in the lake. The district commissioner, who was also the police chief, personally went to inquire into the matter, but his inquiries could not produce any tangible result. The government then appointed a special police commissioner to carry on further inquiries in this tragic case. After a month or so, he found a clue and arrested the real culprits. It so happened that one of them had 2 wives. The 5 accused who were found guilty of murder were publicly hanged before a gathering of 10,000, and their cows and belongings were confiscated. After the tragic episode, the government closed the route and made the place a prohibited area where no one was allowed to reside. Then Nanjibai narrates some experiences he had during this period of trading in forests. Sri Khirajbai, a gentleman of his community, owned a shop. He was once removing a box when a serpent hissed and its poisonous breath affected his eyes. They soon turned red and blood flowed out of them. Four African tailors who worked at his shop ran with sticks to kill the serpent. Sri Kirajbhai was taken to the hospital and it took him 2 months to recover from the effects of the poison of the deadly serpent. Such tragic experiences which Nanjibai had during his forest tours in East Africa proved that the teachings of holy books were quite correct. One should be fearless and not be cowed down by accidents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dara Chauhan. Now let's have Ms. Mittal Modwaria from semester 5 who will tell us about chapter 22.
Namaste. Our respected Nagar sir, Principal Nagar sir, Head of the Department Ketki ma'am, Nayan sir, Aditi ma'am, Mit sir, and my dear old friends. Today's I tell about chapter number 22, Erection of Guinea Factories. It was in the year 1916 that the British conquered German East Africa. Bapuji's wife came to Africa with his eldest son Khimji Pai. Now was the time for a step forward in business. Bapuji thought of starting his own greeneries. Bapuji's business at that time, buying and selling cloth, Angini cotton and other sun-dried cloth, Angini cotton and other sun-dried goods. Bapuji decided to create a factory of his own, one at Kumbli and other at Bismbati. He had written to his people in Bombay to buy 12 machines and an opener, but control regulation came into way as machinery both in India could not be exported to East Africa. At Kambali, he made a beginning with 12 Guinea machines and for Basmati, he brought 100 machines. The agriculture officer was unhappy at the progress of Indian businessmen, and so he objected to it and placed the matter before the governor. The district commissioner was quite sympathetic. He forwarded the application to the agriculture commissioner and allowed to Bapuji to proceed with the creation of factories. Both these factories turned out about 2,000 cotton. In the year 1917, the factories bought in 3 lakhs and a half and the cotton business 2 lakhs. The Great War in Europe came to a close in 1918. He secured a lease for even 11 plots of land from the government in the year plots of land from the government in the year 1919 and decided to start guinea factories there. The first 8 months required 7 to 8 lakhs for its successful working. Those to keep all his guineas working, the sum needed would be half a crore. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mittal Modwaria. Now let's have the summary of chapter 23 from Ms. Ruchi Jetwa, semester 5.
Namaste, Honorable Principal Dr. Nagar sir, Head of the Department of Ketki and Pundia, Professor Nayan sir, and Aditi ma'am, and my dear friends. My chapter number is 23, New Partnership. Sri Jinabai, a Senate lawyer from Panwad, belonged to their family. Panwad was then a pretty good trading village in the Navanagar state, which was ruled by an Indian prince, Prince Ranjit and Prince Dulip, had already made the state well known by their cricket fame. When he went to their place from Bombay, he did not dream of it and was quite unprepared for marriage. His mind worked in a different direction. Since he was 13, he had led the life of merchant who removed through the forest of East Africa. Even at this fag end of his life, he still feels that those thoughts were right and he should have kept away from this new betrothal. But destiny had called him another partnership which was crowned his life with great cooperation and love. He went to Bombay after the marriage and shows at Mathurdas Gokuldas. He had by now gathered all the details, attendance of his financial and commercial position from a branch of the National Bank of India in Africa and processed reliable information from bank about his capability and his reliability. Hence, it was agreed between us to said Mathurdas would send his own representative to supersede the joint partnership business credit amounting to rupees 100 lakhs to set Mathudas Nanji and Co. was granted for the National Bank of India and its first installment rupees 35 lakhs was depicted to East Africa. He caught the first steamer to reach Mombasa along with his wife. Then he left Mombasa. He was in disappear, but he left for it again by steamer. He was full of new hopes. The new partnership had infused and freshness and enthusiasm, and his heart struck with joy like a swelling waves of sea. He wanted to do his business within the limit perceived by his capability. He did decide to expand the business with the discipline and sportsmanship which two means demanded. He thought the strength the hands of Indian merchants who had left their heads and home not merely to earn their bread and also to be active partner in building the trade in Uganda. The consequently provided the rising country a sound economical way. He started purchasing cotton at rupees 1,200 for 20 months. Mr. Vance Oakley, the manager of British Cotton Growing Association, was later contributed and estimated to find most of the African cotton growers bring the crops to his geners. By then, years, cotton season was already lost to him, hardly did credit balance against the debit, so he ordered purchase cotton in 1921. He drew rupees 40 lakhs from Bombay. High prices of continued to remain unchanged until the third year after the war. After the war. And the Europeans did so, whatever they had gone and established their colonies, but Indian merchants had never dreamed of establishing their power anywhere. They rather close to mix freely with the sons of soil, sat and talked with them on the same carpet, carried and prayed and remained for years to earn their livelihood. They thus indirectly contributed to the process of the land and resided there with the goodwill, cooperation, and love of the inhabitation of country they adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Ruchi Jetwa. Very nice. Thanks to all the participants. Now, at the end of our today's session, it's a time for thanking everybody. So, I would like to invite our respected head of the department, Dr. Ketki Madam, for vote of thanks. Please, Madam. Madam, we are not able to hear you.
This. I think that some voice is there.
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm starting, huh, Aditi? Yes. Honorable Nagar sir, Dr. Tak sir, Aditi madam, IT admin Mit Bhai, and dear students. Due to some, I think, a mistake or some error is there, I just go on listening to the echo. Can you find out, Mit Bhai? Do you have echo?
Yes, ma'am. Have you logged in from mobile also?
Only from mobile I can do it. So yes, now it's okay. Thank you so much. Yes, now I found out the technical thing here. Okay. Yes, so today we are so happy that our FI class have joined us. And together with that, I would like to congratulate all the SY and TY class students because they have done their job very well, successfully. The semester first students don't know about it, but I have already given them a type of a description regarding our international seminar thing. And as now they will be active from the next study circle, they will start their role playing in this study circle activity. So Nagar sir, I thank you so much for providing your guidance and motivation for doing various activities during this study circle activities. Together with that, I also thank Dr. Nayan sir. Nayan sir also, as he is dealing with so many other activities, he is busy with those activities, but he was here to welcome you. So thank you so much. And he actually gave you a type of short introduction to our Kul Pitaji. So thank you, Nayan sir. Of course, I cannot forget to thank Aditi madam because continuously she is handling the study circle activities. So Aditi madam, I thank you so much. I find no words to thank you. You are a helping line for us, and thank you so much for everything. Moreover, I would like to thank TY class especially, and of course SY class, that you have participated in this activity. So again, we are obliged to you because you are sparing your valuable time, especially the TY girls, as now they will have to face the examination and they are preparing for the examination. So thank you so much, girls. I congratulate you because you really worked hard to prepare some of the chapters. And sorry for those girls because we couldn't include you because the time was over and our FI class have to go to the environment class. So they were just worried for that class. And that's why we just tried to bring a very good close of this session. I wanted to tell you students, those who have joined here, especially earlier there were 44 students. Now there are only a few students, but I would like to thank with a very good quotation given by our Kulpitaji. And as he told in his autobiography, Dream Half Expressed, I quote here, I too had my sorrows and unhappiness during a long life of 3/4 of a century. In this 74th year of my life, as I look back upon this period, I am thrilled with the experiences of my adventurous life, as well as by its earthly gains. But as I look back to the spiritual side of my life, I feel that though I have been after material things, I have not forgotten my master. If life has given me so much, my faith in him has blessed it with contentment. His worship and his name have been my true solace, and I will hope that in the remaining years of my life, I shall never forget him and return the talents well used which he entrusted me. Till then, my life will remain a dream half expressed. I unquote here. Thank you so much, Aditi. I would like to thank once again everybody. Thank you so much. And bye bye, everybody. We shall see you soon after 15 days again in the next study circle activity. And FI class is ready to give their best in the next study circle. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.